Tonight on the Vince Dow Show, the Donald Trump indictment drama escalates and Ron DeSantis has finally responded and commented on it. We'll give you those details. Also, drinking coffee is now racist, apparently. And did I, Vince Dow, single-handedly fix Twitter? What are you talking about, Vince? We'll give you the details coming up tonight on the Vince Dow Show. Stay tuned. We are live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome everyone to the Vince Dow Show. I am your host, Vince Dow. Hope you guys had a great weekend. And before we begin, everyone be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. And also, tell me how your weekend went. Let me know in the live chat. We are doing this show live every weeknight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to join us. We got 24 likes in the chat right now. Come on, guys. What are we doing? Get those likes up. I want to see about 50 likes in the next few minutes here. Now, if you want to support the show, or if you have a question or comment that you want read or answered, feel free to support by sending in a super chat. I will be checking super chats periodically throughout the show. And then, of course, as usual, we'll be doing a lengthy Q&A/super chat portion at the end of the show. Hopefully, we don't get interrupted by an internet outage tonight. Sorry for what happened on Friday. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, let's get into the show tonight. But before we do that, let me check the time. Oh, what's that? It's the hour of Dow. So, ladies and gentlemen, let the Vinsanity commence. All right. Let's get into it here tonight. Well, shortly we'll be reacting to Ron DeSantis' recent comments on the Donald Trump indictment. But while we kind of wait for people to pour into the chat, usually it takes you guys a few minutes to get notified, come in here. We have another story for you here. There was a story today where economists calculated that 184 banks were at risk of failing in the same way that Silicon Valley Bank did. 184 banks in this country. That's not good. I don't need to tell you that very uncertain times are ahead of us, folks. Which is why you need to check out our sponsors tonight at Noble Gold. Why? Because gold and silver are real assets in times like these, which are unstable. And most of you guys are just going to listen to this and not care and skip past it, even though you and I both know and agree that this is not useless because the US dollar is going in the trash can, but you're still not going to care. So I don't know what to tell you. But for those of you who are alert and big-brained, gold is a surefire way to keep your money safe for retirement with a precious metals IRA from Noble Gold Investments, who have been helping people like you keep their money safe for years with these. And this month they're giving away a beautiful, look at that, isn't that beautiful, Gold Eagle bullion coin with every qualifying IRA of $50,000 or higher. Make sure you're secure. Visit VinceDaoGold.com. Yeah, we have our own sponsorship website now. VinceDaoGold.com. Don't get screwed over by the pending financial crisis. All right. Well, with that said, let's get into the show tonight. I'm sure you heard over the weekend that an indictment of Donald Trump is potentially coming tomorrow. Okay, so we did an emergency video about it this weekend. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw that. But just to recap, the very corrupt state of New York has been doing this investigation witch hunt into Donald Trump now for quite a few years. And now what they're trying to get him over is the Stormy Daniels thing. So they tried to investigate the Trump Organization, found very little wrong, minor generic stuff that didn't even have anything to do with Donald Trump. They tried to go after that, but now they're after the Stormy Daniels stuff. How legitimate is that charge? Well, let me remind people, we are talking about a misdemeanor charge here that, if you'll remember, in 2018, federal prosecutors refused to pursue because it was literally a nothing burger. We're talking about the same scandal that, if you'll remember again, people have very short memories here, but Stormy Daniels ended up having to pay $300,000 in defamation damages to Donald Trump, and her lawyer, Michael Avenatti, remember that? Remember the creepy porn lawyer per Tucker Carlson? He literally is in a big federal investigation, and that's the case in question, which should be surprising to no one. It's a big nothing burger. It always has been a big nothing burger. But why are they doing it? Well, of course, we all know it's political. They basically want to arrest Donald Trump because they think it'll be embarrassing. And obviously, as we know, they just have this very deranged hatred of the guy. Will the charges go anywhere? No. Will the case go anywhere? No. But the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, literally campaigned on saying she was going to get Trump, so she's got to give the people something. We understand this by now. I don't want to focus on talking points you've already heard all throughout the weekend. Of course, it's a political witch hunt. Of course, it is highly unprecedented, dangerous, and disgusting to use the justice system like this against a former president. I don't need to tell you that. What's interesting, though, is how Ron DeSantis factors into this. It's no secret that Ron DeSantis is probably going to run for president. Pretty open secret of American politics. And that's a big reason why he and Trump have been feuding recently. Everyone knows that. So Ron, admittedly, is in a strange position politically. Because on one hand, Democrats are wielding unprecedented levels of federal power that every Republican in this country knows is wrong against their opponents. But on the other hand, Trump has been attacking him, and he's probably about to run against Trump. So it's a very interesting period to be Ron DeSantis, and we on this show are paying very close attention to what he ends up doing. So look, I get all this, but I still, folks, find it a little bit interesting and kind of strategically strange that Ron DeSantis has refused to say anything about it basically this entire weekend. It's been a story since Friday. Every other 2024 candidate spoke up and said something. Vivek, that Indian guy, said something. Even Mike Pence, arch nemesis of Donald Trump, Mike Pence, spoke up and said it was a wrongful political persecution, which I know is a weak statement, but it's still something. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis took the strategy of radio silence all weekend, which I find interesting to say the least, especially considering this is not exactly the type of issue for DeSantis to ignore. The arrest warrant is going to be served in the state of Florida, right? Ron's the governor. He hasn't really said much. It's a little bit interesting. Now, it has rubbed a lot of people in the base the wrong way. I'm just reiterating sentiments I've seen across the rest of the base. But anyways, breaking news as of today, Ron DeSantis finally broke that silence in a press conference after a reporter from Will Witt's, the Florida Standard newspaper, finally asked him about it. So let's take a listen here. Again, breaking news as of today, Ron DeSantis finally speaks up on the Trump indictment situation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Megan from the Florida Standard. We wanted to know what your thoughts are on the rumored Trump indictment, and if you have any role in it. If charges are brought on him, would you have any role in extradition to New York?
So I've seen rumors swirl. I have not seen any facts yet, and so I don't know what's going to happen. But I do know this: the Manhattan District Attorney is a Soros-funded prosecutor, and so he, like other Soros-funded prosecutors, they weaponize their office to impose a political agenda on society at the expense of the rule of law and public safety. He has downgraded over 50% of the felonies to misdemeanors. He says he doesn't want to even have jail time for the vast, vast majority of crimes. And what we've seen in Manhattan is we've seen the crime rate go up, and we've seen citizens become less safe. And so you're talking about this situation with, and look, I don't know what goes into paying hush money to a porn star to secure silence over some type of alleged affair. I can't speak to that. But what I can speak to is that if you have a prosecutor who is ignoring crimes happening every single day in his jurisdiction, and he chooses to go back many, many years ago to try to use something about porn star hush money payments, that's an example of pursuing a political agenda. and weaponizing the office. And I think that that's fundamentally wrong. I also think it's important to point out when you're talking about these Soros-funded prosecutors, yes, they may do a high-profile politicized prosecution, and that's bad, but the real victims are ordinary New Yorkers, ordinary Americans in all these different jurisdictions, that they get victimized every day because of the reckless political agenda that these Soros DAs bring to their job. They ignore crime and they empower criminals, and that hurts people, hurts a lot of people every single day. These Soros district attorneys are a menace to society, and I'm just glad that I'm the only governor in the country that's actually removed one from office during my tenure. And in terms of, we are not involved in this, won't be involved in this. I have no interest in getting involved in some type of manufactured circus by some Soros DA, okay? He's trying to do a political spectacle. He's trying to virtue signal for his base. I've got real issues I got to deal with here in the state of Florida. We're obviously shutting down CBDC, which is important. We've got so many things pending in front of the legislature. I've got to spend my time on issues that actually matter to people. I can't spend my time worrying about things of that nature. So we're not going to be involved in it in any way. I'm fighting for Floridians, and I'm fighting back against Biden. That's what I do every single day.
Every time I talk about the Trump DeSantis stuff, someone always gets mad. And every time I don't have my audio on, someone also likewise gets very mad. And there's nothing I can really do about this whole situation besides tell you what I really think, you know, in good faith, and hope that it resonates with someone. And so I'm just going to tell you what I honestly think about this. So we've done that when Trump was criticizing DeSantis. People claim I'm a Trump cultist, but every time Trump does something wrong in the race or strategically bad, I'm always like, okay, here's the deal. But I've had positive things to say about both candidates, blah, blah, blah. That's what we'll do here too. If you get mad, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, I'm giving you my honest thoughts here. So I will say, first off, I don't think that radio silence that DeSantis did basically over the weekend was a very good look by him. Okay, people notice, in my opinion, that's something you have to address. All right, but anyways, he finally talks about it here. Good for him. And I think it's a decent answer in some regards, but I don't know. To me, I'm not even trying to be a hater, but that comes off to me like a very politician answer, if you know what I mean. I think there's a lot in that statement that is left to be desired, and he sort of left on the table there. First of all, won't say Donald Trump's name. I know that's been a thing they've been doing back and forth for a while now, but like I said, I think this is kind of the type of political situation where you got to put the beef aside. So that's how I sort of felt. Notably, Ron says he has no plans to get involved in the drama. He says the drama is basically not important. If you'll play it back, that's what he said. But it's like, that's your state, though, you know? And to be clear, I will address this. Ron DeSantis does not have the constitutional right to refuse to serve that warrant, from what I've gathered, okay? People have been saying that. He doesn't actually have technically the constitutional right to do that, but he does have the right to get involved in the process and at least stall it by sending it to legal review. And that answer seems to suggest that's not in the cards. He's not going to be sending it to legal review at all, which I think he should, in my opinion. Of course, I think he should do what he can legally do to stop this phony process from happening at all. Instead, he basically says, I'm not going to touch it at all, which again, in my opinion, is a little bit of a questionable answer. And look, I know we have DeSantis people watching. I know there's people in both camps who will, defend both candidates to the death. But can anyone genuine tell me that, like, you really liked that answer? But like you don't think anything in that answer was a little bit left to be desired? Even Mike Cernovich, who is not a big Trump guy, okay? He's actually been very anti-Trump as of late. This is the biggest DeSantis guy on Twitter. He's been attacking Trump vehemently. Even he said that he hated the response and actually thinks this response is going to screw over DeSantis, and he's not a Trump shell or whatever, okay? And I tend to agree because I think this is obviously a huge and very important issue to the base. And Ron will go down as the guy who basically gave, like, the weakest answer of them all, right? not that it's necessarily substantively the weakest answer, but he's the only guy who like waited several days. It took a reporter. He didn't put out a statement. It took a reporter asking him the question. And, like I said, he kind of gave a halfway response in some ways. I don't think this helps Ron's image for 2024. And again, I'm saying this in a fair, honest, objective, analytical sense. Now, people will say this. They'll say, oh, well, what duty does he have to stick up for Trump when Trump has been attacking him? And perhaps that's an argument, but it's not an argument I find convincing, and I'll tell you why. But Trump's attacking him, so what responsibility does he have? Well, two things. Firstly, I think shots on the campaign trail are one thing. I understand it's going to get dirty. I understand there's bad blood. But in my opinion, something like this ought to go beyond that. I mean, it tells you a lot that even Mike Pence is going out there and saying something about it, because I think this is an unprecedented level of political persecution by a corrupt left-wing justice system. And in my opinion, this is somewhere that people ought to put aside their differences and unite, okay? I also think that in many ways, it's the best political move for DeSantis to be a little bit more vocal about this, because what is his big appeal for 2024? Well, his appeal, first of all, is that he's the bigger man than Trump, right? Isn't that his whole appeal? He's the bigger man, he's more mature, he's the adult in the room, etc. And so I think that making a bolder stand for Trump here could really be his chance to show that he is the bigger man, gain the respect of a lot of people, demonstrate maturity, and honestly, I think it would increase his popularity. People would appreciate it much more than they appreciated this answer, which a lot of people, including Mike Cernovich, seem to have not liked. And secondly, perhaps more importantly, his other appeal is the fact that he's the guy that's like truly based, right? His appeal is that, oh, well, look at the record in Florida versus Trump as president. Look at COVID, education. Trump is a fraud. I'm the real conservative fighter who has this proven record of getting things done. That's Ron DeSantis' entire political appeal in many ways. And that's why I say he needs to take a stronger stand here, because this hypothetically getting involved in this, or at least saying something stronger, is his chance to show that he's truly anti-system, truly anti-establishment. He's not the bot neocon shill that the Trump people are calling him. He actually is the effective one, the one who uses power effectively, steps in and gets things done. And he's going to take a stand against the corrupt power. And instead, he kind of just deflects away from it. He labels, as you saw in the statement, he labels the issue as unimportant, which I think is a mistake too. And I like I said, I think that's something that rubs a lot of people the wrong way, because regardless of whether you're a Trump supporter or not, this is absolutely an important issue. The persecution of not just a normal political rival, the former president of the United States, that's absolutely an important issue. And again, I don't think it was the best look, in my opinion. But if you disagree, let me know. You're free to disagree, okay? In fact, that's what we'll do here for a few minutes before I go on to the next story and recollect myself from the audio issue that most definitely did not happen. So let me know what you think. I'll stop and read some of the super chats here before we go on to the next story. So yeah, let's check out the controversial firestorm that this monologue has caused. This will be fun. As usual, if you want to support the show and if you want your comment or question read and answered, feel free to send it in as a super chat. All donations are greatly appreciated. And we'll go back into, like Zeb said there, perhaps getting a producer for this show so that way we don't have hypothetically 5-minute audio glitches. All right, let's check super chats here. We got okay, I saw we got one from Burgundy Blue earlier. Whenever I close OBS, I lose a super chat. But I think I remember him saying basically something along the lines of, what do you think of Ron DeSantis' accusations of so allegedly he tortured people in Guantanamo Bay? I don't know how true that is. What I've heard about Ron DeSantis is that his role in the military was not even a super active combat role, so I don't know if that's true or not. Regardless, I don't think it's a super relevant story. I mean, would most Republicans hear that and really care? Maybe some like civil libertarians, etc. But allegedly, he was involved in Guantanamo Bay. I mean, okay, so what? Actually, I think a lot of boomers might look at that and be like, okay, so he's anti-terrorist, etc. That's actually kind of based. I don't know. My opinion, I don't think it's going to be a very significant issue on the campaign trail either way at all. I think there are more effective attack lines against Ron, and I'm sure if he does get past the primary, some Democrats will try to use it. I don't think it's the most effective, and that doesn't sound that true to me. When was he ever in Guantanamo Bay? Because isn't that like operated by like the CIA and stuff? I thought Ron DeSantis was just in the Navy or whatever. Not sure. But anyways, Zeb Boykin for thank you for the $5 previously, Burgundy Blue. Zeb Boykin for $5 says, Blue, I've spent some time in Gitmo. It needs some war crimes, tongue in cheek. Thank you for the $5, Zeb. I'm not sure what Zeb meant by this. Very interesting. Very, very curious. Zeb Boykin for $10 says $10 to hire a producer. So true. So true. One day we will have a producer on this show. And then I can blame the producer for the issues, not myself. Okay, right now I am the producer. I am Mr. Producer. One day we won't have to deal with this stuff. And your donations, chat, support that dream and that vision. So thank you very much for the $10. God bless you, Zeb Boykin. We got a $5 super chat from Burgundy Blue here. Says 320 never happened. We have always been at war with Eurasia. 2 + 2 = 5. Literally George Orange Hills 1994. So true. We are scraping that from memory. Okay. I am. It's not Ingsoc. It's Vinsoc. And Vinsoc rewrites the record of history here, okay? We never had audio issues for 5 minutes. That never happened. All right, well, we will continue here with the show. I will catch up with the rest of the Super Chats later on in the show, so if you want to support and send them in now before we do our next segment, we will get to you at the end of the show. But all right, on here with our next story. This is a doozy. Did you know that drinking coffee is racist? Well, it makes sense, right? Because we know the English language. Coffee starts with a K. KKK starts with a K. It's obviously KK coffee, right? And of course, it further makes sense considering that coffee does things like improves efficiency. It encourages hard work. It gives people energy. It helps people wake up and show up on time, etc. And according to left-wing activists, all of these things are constructs of white supremacy. So I suppose it really does make sense. But we have this headline from AFRU, which is like this big Black Power type of magazine blog. And their headline reads, "Is coffee racist? How drinking coffee perpetuates white supremacy." I think we have a soundbite on hand that very appropriately represents the situation.
I don't hate liberals. I feel sad for them that they're mentally challenged.
It's so true. Should we play it one more time? Let's play it one more time.
I don't hate liberals. I feel sad for them that they're mentally challenged.
100%. So the article goes on to say in the byline here, created by black people for black people, and now a pillar of white supremacist capitalism. If you consume a coffee, you are helping an industry built on racism. Now, from everything I've gathered, the idea that coffee was created or invented by black people is not exactly the most accurate. Sure, coffee does grow in Africa, especially around Ethiopia, but all the information I've gathered says that the first known accounts of the cultivation of coffee actually began in Arabia in the 15th century. Now, according to the National Coffee Association, coffee beans do originate from a forest in Ethiopia, and there apparently is a local Ethiopian legend about how some goat herder found out about coffee and the word spread around. But the first actual recorded cultivation of coffee in history with the trade receipts and all that actually began in Arabia. So take that as you will. Maybe this whole myth about this Ethiopian sheep herder finding out about coffee first is true, but to me the whole story sounds like a lot of cope. It's not verifiably historically true. It's a rural African myth. That's your historical evidence? I think we got to do a little bit better than that. Plus, the headline talks about inventing coffee. So yeah, I guess maybe some locals may have figured out how to use it, but the historical record, again, suggests that Arabs were the first ones to invent the commodity that we know today. This is very similar to the who discovered America debate, right? Sure, the Vikings actually were the first people to land on the North American continent, but who is the one who discovered it for the masses and opened up America to colonization and settlement? It was Columbus, etc., right? But that's the coffee story here. Anyways, so you read the headline, chat, and you're probably thinking, okay, this has to be a little bit clickbait. Like the article itself, you're probably thinking this cannot possibly be this dumb. No, it's about the exact same. In fact, I'd argue it's worse. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Reading from the article here. It's a well-known fact that whites would be eating bland food like plain bread if it weren't for the theft of culinary secrets from people of color, and especially black folks. That's precisely why when the whites found out about coffee, it became one of the reasons they decided to victimize and appropriate black civilization whole scale. The first coffees exported to North America were harvested by slaves, historian, I think B.C. Johnson is his name, wrote. So I tried looking into this, right? Is it true the first coffees exported to North America and Europe were harvested by slaves? And the records I found are that coffee came through Venice from the North African trade, or some point to the Turkish invasion of Hungary in 1526. Either way you slice that, whatever slavery they're referring to is a little bit misleading, because either it was perpetuated by Middle Easterners or Africans themselves. So that's a little bit misleading. It's not like chattel slavery by white people hypothetically was the first source of coffee, but in Europe, I mean. But we continue here. Coffee first came to North America between 1650 and 1700, but coffee was an important, almost religious part of black culture going back as far as the 1400s in Ethiopia. After the whites got their first sip of the black delicacy, they brutally enslaved people of color to keep up with the demand, turning a ritualistic drink into another consumer product in the colonial capitalist machine. As we trace the bean that started in Africa and spread throughout the world, slave ships departed West Africa to put in forced labor to ensure an adequate supply of production to meet demand. As coffee grew during this period, so did enslavement, which was used to sustain production. Ermex, maker of coffee equipment, agrees. White supremacy is built into the foundation of the coffee industry. The global coffee economy was created through colonialism, the white supremacist system under which Europeans invaded, blah, blah, blah. You get the point, okay? So basically, their entire story of the history of coffee is that it came from slaves, this and that. But you're probably thinking, who cares? Because every commodity in human history at some point was produced by slave labor somewhere. So surely we can move on from it now, right? We can move on from the fact that coffee was cultivated by slaves hundreds of years ago, in the same sense that this blazer, which is made out of partly cotton, etc., you know what I mean? But no, it gets even dumber. Because here's what they want us to do with this information. They don't want to just say, oh, awareness. Here we go. We continue here. White folks drinking coffee perpetuates gentrification and racism. So if you're a white person who drinks coffee, you are perpetuating racism. Now that it's been established that historically coffee is deeply rooted in colonialism and racism, you may be wondering what the next steps are. Well, it goes on to say, if you think coffee culture can find a refuge in specialty coffee, think again. This might be obvious to some, but I'll spell it out for folks in the back. The bourgeois notion of specialty coffee is explicitly rooted in classism, which is directly linked to racism. It's not just that black folks cannot afford specialty coffee. Okay, so the article is calling black people poor. I'm saying that again. It's not just that black folks can't afford specialty coffee. That's a quote right out of the article. So apparently they're saying that black people, their own people, cannot afford coffee, specialty coffee. That's what they wrote, okay? I'm just reading here. We continue. But the very acceptance of the term specialty coffee suggests that some coffee is somehow superior to others, an idea that is rooted in whiteness. I'm reading from the article here, just to be clear. Values like hard work creates better products is an white supremacist idea. An white supremacist. Again, I'm reading. They may have edited by now. Their article says an white supremacist idea. So I guess grammar is also an white supremacist idea. Not joking there. Go read the article. That's what it says. But that is constantly forced upon people of color and justifies stereotypes like the myth of laziness in people of color. End quote. So hard work creating excellence apparently is a white supremacist value. That's a new hot take from the people who called their own race too poor to buy nice coffee. Now, this whole article is so ridiculous, I had to begin to question and look into whether or not it was satire, okay? I read this earlier today. I was like, there is no way this is not just some elaborate troll. It has to be. This is right out of a Babylon Bee article. It's worse. It's funnier than a Babylon Bee article. But all of the research that I did indeed concluded that this is real. Okay, this organization, AFRU, is a real thing. You can look up their website. It is a real black-owned arts blog that really did write this. So it may not be the biggest thing. In fairness, this is not published in the New York Times or anything, but this is indeed a real article. So anyways, in conclusion, the article writes, and we're almost done here, chat. We're almost done here. It is time to boycott and divest, and I quote, unfortunately, coffee is not the only racist drink on the market. Milk also became racist after white supremacists began using the white drink as a symbol of their skin. That's what this article actually says, okay? We continue. Yes, racist roots in the coffee industry are much deeper, but the whiteness of milk and milk's devastating effect on the beautiful black body makes it almost as bad as coffee for some black people. Again, this is not satire, to say for the millionth time. So if both milk and coffee are racist, what can be done? Many people will insist that combining the two drinks actually cancels out the racism because it represents the white becoming pregnant with blackness. What the heck? But ultimately, and I know this will hurt, a proper commitment to doing anti-racist direct action requires that we give up coffee altogether unless you are personally Ethiopian. So you have to boycott coffee and milk in order to be a true anti-racist. Look, I hate taking stuff like this seriously. It is so unbelievably ridiculous. I don't like reading stupid stuff like this and like actually debunking it point for point. It's too stupid. It's too unserious for that. But in this case, I really couldn't help myself because, I mean, let's just think about this logically for a second. So if coffee is actually your culture, right? If coffee is actually like long lost black heritage, why would you want to boycott and divest from your own culture? Shouldn't you want to, like, I don't know, take back your own culture if that's the case? Wouldn't that be the smart thing to do if you actually really cared about this stuff? Because you're not going to be able to boycott coffee. That's just stupid. I mean, it's not going to work. Most people are addicted to coffee, first of all. If it's an addictive substance, how are you going to be able to boycott it? Your stupid magazine article isn't going to change that. But what is the proactive thing to do? The proactive thing to do is actually say, if you're these people, to start a bunch of black-owned coffee shops and compete for the market space, right? If I were them, if I were the one out here saying this nonsense, that's probably what I would encourage, because aren't they always saying black-owned businesses, black-owned businesses? So considering you're not changing A, the reality of capitalism, or B, the reality of the caffeine addiction of the industrial world, wouldn't the smart tactical decision be to try to take over the market of a commodity you already claim is your heritage? Why not take back coffee? Why not go and start a bunch of black-owned coffee shops? Oh, but see, the thing is that starting a business would actually require things like initiative, hard work, creativity, responsibility, and all of those things are constructs of white supremacy, right? It's much easier to write stupid articles with incorrect grammar. Apparently so. All right. Well, one last... I can't believe that's real. That is a real article, chat. All right, one last story before we go on to super chats and Q&A. So start sending in those now because we're about to get to them in a few seconds here. But one last story. I fixed Twitter today. Well, how the heck did you do that, Vince? How do you fix Twitter? Isn't Twitter like a multi-billion-dollar company? I'll tell you how. I'll tell you the short version of the story here. So basically in 2021, my personal Twitter account was banned for no reason. I did a video about this. But anyways, long story short, I don't want to get into all that. Long story short, my Twitter account got reinstated last week. Okay, my old original personal Twitter account. Now, in the meantime, since I've been in Twitter jail for about 2 years, not 2 years, so like a little bit over a year and a few months, we've been using a business brand account called like VinceDao TV, which is basically like a PR page for the show and the content. So that way I could keep some presence on Twitter. Now that page blew up, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, when I got reinstated on Twitter, I figured, okay, well then why don't I just convert this personal business account into the VinceDao account? Because, you know, I just got reinstated. I'm an unbanned person on Twitter. And despite the fact that they reinstated me, meaning my likeness is now allowed on Twitter, my personal self is now free on Twitter, Twitter banned me today again for no reason. And they banned me for ban evasion, okay? So what the heck do you mean ban evasion? You literally just reinstated VinceDao, the original Twitter account, and now you're banning the new VinceDao for ban evasion. How does that make any sense? So anyways, there was this whole ordeal on Twitter today, but shout out to Alex the Lord for helping me out. He knows a lot of people at Twitter. He's the guy on our behalf in the conservative movement who's been reaching out to Elon and getting a lot of conservative accounts reinstated. And he helped me get this resolved within a few hours. He tweeted at Twitter support. So legendary, shout out to ALX, legendary guy. Everyone do me a favor right now and thank at ALX the Lord on Twitter for helping to free VinceDao. Just tweet at him something like, thank you for freeing VinceDao. That would be greatly appreciated. You can do it. You can tweet at him or you can do it in his replies. Anyways, long story short, everyone go on Twitter right now. Thank ALX the Lord for freeing VinceDao. Okay, I want to thank him on behalf of our community. But anyways, long story short, he saved me from the train wreck that would have been Twitter support. But anyways, getting to the point here of the story, how did I fix Twitter? Because this still doesn't answer the question. How did VinceDao fix Twitter? Well, what happened today was Twitter support girl, the main one doing it, Ella Irwin, tweeted out, and I quote, in reply to ALX and my account, she said, found some automated logic running that took the account down for ban evasion even though it was recently reinstated, fixing it. And then, big news, Elon Musk himself liked the tweet. So we literally fixed Twitter today, chat, okay? There's a bug at Twitter that I was the victim of, and then we fixed Twitter. So you are welcome. You are welcome, Elon Musk. And thank you, by the way, Elon Musk. It's a mutual thing because, you know, I know I've talked negatively about you like a year ago or whatever, but listen, okay? Truce, okay? Truce. It's water under the bridge. We're good, okay? Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Elon. And thank you, ALX the Lord. Again, be sure to tweet at him on behalf of our community. All right. You're welcome, guys. King VinceDao, he fixed Twitter. All right, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, we will go on to the super chats and Q&A. That wraps up our news story portion for tonight. So let's see what's going on with the super chats and Q&A here. Again, if you want to send them in to support the show, again, it's all greatly appreciated in advance. And let's see, we got 91 likes in chat. Let's get to 100 likes. Come on. It's been stuck at 91 likes. Get to 100 likes. Leave a like on the stream. All right. Let's go and look at the super chats here. We got dollar for $5. Thank you very much. Says, I'm a single issue voter. What are Ron's thoughts on airplane? If he wants my vote, he has to be pro-plane. Trump is my pick right now. Thank you very much, dollar for dollar. I can't tell you that I know Ron DeSantis' stances on plane. On the airplane question. You'll have to ask him yourself. Maybe there's a Q&A or town hall you can attend on that question. Thank you very much for the $5, dollar for dollar. And I see you now have your aviation picture as your profile picture, you flying a plane. So hope it's going well. Might have to get in the air with you at some point when I trust you. Thank you very much for the $5. God bless you. Appreciate the support. Zachary for $2 says, okay, I'm not reading that. I'm not reading that because someone's going to clip it and then be so, but you guys can read it. Thank you very much for the $2. I know what, also that's from the movie Airplane, which dollar for dollar, if you've not seen the movie Airplane, watch it. You cannot be a pilot and not have seen one of the greatest late 70s movies of all time, Airplane. So be sure to go check it out. Thank you very much for the $2, Zachary M. I appreciate it. God bless you. All right, let's go on here with some super chats. Burgundy Blue for $10. Thank you very much. Says, Vince, I can't believe this is an actual article. It is an actual article. That's why I was trying to read it. And I was like, they will not believe that this is real. It's a real article. Milk is racist. Coffee is racist. And they want you to boycott coffee in order to fix racism. Anyways, I can't believe this is an actual article. They are really grasping at straws. They would have made a better point if they focused on how people today are exploited to produce coffee in the third world. Well, of course, it's not about that. It's about crying domestically. And, you know, the dumbest thing is they didn't even say, oh, start a black-owned coffee shop. That's the dumbest thing, in my opinion. Instead of saying, start a black-owned coffee shop, go do something, be creative, find a creative fix or solution to the situation, they're just like, well, it's racist. So thank you very much for the $10, Burgundy Blue. Again, if you want to support the show, feel free to send in a super chat. I'm reading them all aloud right now. Dollar for $2 says, George Harrison is my favorite and the best Beatle. Thank you very much for the $2, dollar for dollar. I'm not even super familiar. George Harrison is a Beatle. I know Lennon. I know Paul McCartney. I know Ringo. I don't even know all of the band's names. But considering most of the Beatles are a bunch of, like, just socialists and stuff, I'd have to assume George Harrison, whoever that is one of the better ones. Thank you very much for the dollar for dollar. Dollar for dollar. Jesse Hughes for $2 says, I'm Russian. None of you are allowed to have vodka. Thank you very much for the $2, Jesse. It is true. Drinking vodka is cultural appropriation of the Russians. Very real. Thank you very much for the $2. Jesse Hughes. Yo, we got Monster Z in chat. What's up, man? Good to see you there. I drink... That freaking board behind me always falls... Look at that. Look at that, chat. It always falls over. It really does. Flimsy. Everything's falling apart here. Everything is truly falling apart here. It is true. But listen. In celebration... I shouldn't say that. Because, of course, it's racist. But, so not celebrating. Joking. Disavow. But I did have myself not so nice. But I did have myself a cup of racism today. Okay, did you have a cup of racism today? It's extra racist actually because it has no milk in it according to the article. But there's my cup of racism. I will not sip because I am boycotting racism. Okay, we're boycotting racism. So this coffee will not be finished tonight. Real and true. All right, let's check out regular chat here. Vince is a Harrison nationalist. I don't even know who that is. The Polish made vodka first. Is this true, Jesse? Is this true? Have you been lying to us? You are culturally, as usual, Russians are actually taking from the Polish. Wow. Bad news. Dollar for dollar for a dollar for dollar says Harrison wrote Taxman based, and here comes the sun. Thank you very much for the $2 dollar for dollar. I'm not a big Beatles fan. I'm just going to be totally honest with you. Never really got that much into their music. There is a lot of 60s music I find decent, but I don't know. I never liked the Beatles. There was just something about them. I remember I used to just, even when I was young, I looked at them. I was like, why do they look like that? Like, they look like a bunch of nerds. And I was like, that's cool. Who found that cool? And then I used to watch, because I looked at Elvis. I was like, Chad, high testosterone. I can see why he was such a star. I look at the Beatles. They all got their stupid bowl cuts and stuff. And even at a young age, I just implicitly didn't like them. I think the first Beatles song I liked was the song about the, what's the one Under the Sea? But not that one. It's the octopus. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I don't know. I just heard it. I was like, is this a nursery rhyme? But anyways, Zorkoth for $10 says, when the thank you very much for the $10, Zorkoth. Appreciate it. God bless you. Says, when the modern liberal post-West collapses, the world will experience a return to normalcy, and I, for one, welcome this collapse. I'm drunk. Thank you very much for the $10, the drunk $10, Zorkoth. I appreciate it very much. And, yeah, I see. I don't actively root for things to collapse, but there is going to have to be some degree of the system, in a peaceful sense, of course, breaking down in order for things to truly get better and get us back, right? So I appreciate it, and Zorkoth is on his Vince Dow bender. Real. Jesse Hughes for $5 says, if Poland made vodka first, I was unaware, but you can't criticize me because I'm half Azerbaijani. Well, thank you very much for the $5, Jesse Hughes. Hey, I don't know. Okay, listen, you former Soviet states, you guys can fight it out. I don't have an opinion. Thank you very much for the $5, Jesse Hughes. Good to see you in chat. Hope you are having a good day. Jonathan Fields for $20. Let's go, says Jonathan Fields. Great. I am very disappointed at how this article was put out. I can't believe people fall for that. The woke side is now and have been attacking the future generations, children, and even grown women and men sometimes. It's so true. Thank you for the $20, Jonathan Fields. Yeah, I can't believe it's real. I checked so many times. I was like, this has to be a joke. Because it's straight out of the Babylon Bee. It is like straight out of the Babylon Bee. I was like, there's no way. This has to be a joke. I have to be being played here. I had to vet it several different times for the show because I was like, I'm not going to look stupid. I'm not going to do a segment on an article that's totally fake and the whole thing was a gag. So I checked time and time again, and it's real. It's real. Thank you very much for the $20 big donation from Jonathan Fields. I appreciate it. We got $5 from Zachary. Says Elvis carried into the White House even when Nixon told him not to. Also, what's your favorite Marty Robbins song? Mine's Ain't I Right. Mine is also Ain't I Right, which is very disappointing because Ain't I Right is not on iTunes or Spotify or anywhere, at least by him. But it's yes, I agree. It's Marty Robbins' best song. If you guys are not familiar, it's an anti-communist song. It's the iconic anti-communist song of Marty Robbins. And it's not any anti-communist song, okay? It's not just, it's not even just your generic, big government, all this stuff. It goes in. So if you've not listened to Ain't I Right by Marty Robbins, listen to it. It's so true, and it gives off the vibes of a certain based senator in the 1950s who got wrongfully martyred because he was going after the communists. Thank you very much for the $5, Zachary. Appreciate the support. God bless you. Jonathan Fields for $5. Again, thank you very much for the support tonight. Jonathan Fields and everyone who's been sending in super chats, God bless you guys, says, I know have to watch over my niece's tablets and what they watch because I'm afraid they'll fall into the woke crowd and have a false sense of reality. Thank you very much for the $5, Jonathan Fields. And it's so true. Definitely keep an eye, but I will say this, okay? And I will warn, it's your niece, okay? So, I understand you're not their parent. You can't really mediate these things. But having been someone who grew up with an iPod Touch starting in 4th grade, if you as an I'm just going to tell you this, okay? And again, maybe tell this to the parents because I know you're just the uncle or whatever. If whatever you think you can do to monitor what kids do on the internet, you can, okay? I will attest to that. All of our Gen Zers in chat will attest to that. You really have to raise them right and ideally not give them the internet for a long enough time to where they're aware enough to understand and handle it. I don't know. But I will warn you about that. Warn their parents about that. Because whatever firewalls you're going through their history, you think they're kids. They're smarter with technology than you. That's like the truth, right? You should see some of these iPad kids. They're crazy. And so I would say keep an eye on that. But thank you very much for the $5, Jonathan Fields. I'll give you guys about 3 extra minutes of show here. We'll go until about like 9:02, 9:03, because I know we had the audio out for like 3 minutes. Very annoying. But thank you very much for the $5. So here's the last call tonight, chat. Any last super chats, questions you want sent in? Again, I'll wrap up the stream in about 5 or so minutes here. So be sure to send in. Last call, anyone here? Someone said Elvis worked for the FBI. He was a Fed. Well, I have news for you about the role of the Beatles in the history of American civilization. Everyone be sure to leave a like. We're at 108 likes right now. Let's get everyone to 120 likes, 130 likes. Get it up. Everyone leave a like in the chat right now. Ragged Old Flag is a good song by Johnny Cash. So true. Great song. Rowley Gonzalez for $2 says, Cobra Kai review when? I'll give it right now. Great show. I think like season 1 and 2 is the best, honestly, but the show's been great. There has not been a bad season in my opinion. Highly recommend. It's the only show I've watched. Only show I've sat down and watched since really ever, basically, since I watched like Family Guy in middle school and high school. But it's the only show since I have watched. Great show. Not even the most, I mean, there's a little bit of like implicit wokeness sometimes, but in many ways the show's actually anti-woke. And Johnny Lawrence is our guy. I'm a Johnny Lawrence, John Kreese conservative. Let's go. Thank you very much for the $2. Good to see you in chat. Rowley Gonzalez. What do I think of Yao? I think Yao does good work. They do really good work on the legislative level. And I'm not a libertarian. I don't agree with every like libertarian belief or whatever, but I'm not going to counter signal Yao. They've done a lot of great work at the state legislative level that I really don't see any other group doing. So thank you very much. $2, Rowley Gonzalez. And we'll wrap up here with our final super chats of the night, unless anyone has something very last minute. What are your thoughts on the idea that American has always been a liberal society? Because the founding fathers were classically liberal, and even the conservative presidents were libs 20 years behind. I mean, in an absolute sense, perhaps there is truth to it in the sense that, you know, the American experiment is in some ways, I'd argue a little bit exaggerated, but in some ways built on the Enlightenment and classical liberalism and all that stuff. And, you know, so I suppose it is true. America has in certain ways always been a more liberal society than, you know, the old monarchies of Europe or whatever. But I would also say it's kind of a nerdy discussion that is really not that relevant so much anymore today. You know what I mean? Like people debate this. Oh, was the American Revolution liberal or conservative, or have we always been a liberal nation? And what's the meaning of liberalism? I think these are just like debates for a bunch of college professors to sit down and have, and I don't really think they're really all that applicable to modern society. The point of the matter is we know it needs to be done. We're trying to act like politically actionable things in, you know, the next few decades here. What relevance does it really make to sit down and debate the semantics of whether or not America has always been classically liberal, or it's like a mix, or it was originally conservative? Who cares? Like, we know it needs to be done. But thank you very much for the $10, Burgundy Blue. Appreciate the support. And final super chat of the night, Jonathan Fields for $2 says, God bless you and have a great night. Love the videos. Thank you very much, Jonathan Fields. Well, okay, ladies and gentlemen. that'll wrap up our show for you tonight. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Sorry we had technical difficulties again. That pissed me off. I was not happy about that. But now we learned. Apparently OBS just, when I mute, it just turns down the audio. All right. Anyways, have a very good night, ladies and gentlemen. God bless. Thank you for tuning into the show tonight. And be sure to join us same time, same place tomorrow night, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern time, ending at 9 p.m. Eastern time for episode 7 of the Vince Dow Show. Hopefully scot-free without any technical difficulties tomorrow night. And until then, ladies and gentlemen, everyone have a very good night. Alpha moves only. God bless and peace.